Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be creating a Christmas gnome using lots of different techniques in my art journal. Now this is based off one of the techniques I did for my free class at the end of the year, which I'll put in the description box below if you want the live real-time version of this, which goes for about 2 hours. So this is a very sped up version, but if you want to see it slowed down and in a different idea, I think the one I did on the Christmas video was a Christmas tree, but you can adapt this idea in many different ways. So the first thing I'm starting off with is just on a plain piece of paper. I'm just creating a bit of a collage matrix. Now for this one I'm actually just using stencils. On the one in my free class I use stamps and all sorts. So whatever you do to create a funky looking background, that's all you need to do for this. One thing I do like to do is to add a little bit of metallic though. So I'm adding on some gold here and it just adds some shimmer. You can see there's no right or wrong way to do this. I'm actually flipping it around so the text is going in lots of different directions. So once you finish that, then I'm going in with a little bit more. I'm adding in some white. So white and black are great unifiers on pages, and they help to add a little bit of detail to your page. Once I finish that, then I am painting off my excess paint into my art journal very quickly. So I'm doing this page in my black journal. This is actually got a black dot in it, which is really helpful when you are doing cut pages. So this kind of is my cut journal page. I like the fact it's got the dots in it so I can fairly easily try and keep things in a straight line when I'm cutting without having to draw all over my journal. I'm just going in and drawing a really simple Christmas gnome shape. So I did use a bit of inspiration from Pinterest. I sort of looked up Christmas gnome. This is a really rough and ready shape. You can certainly be a lot more particular, but you can sort of see there how I've cut it out. I also have just cut the shape out using my entire coloured background. So obviously the face of this, and if I put any white in this, is going to be a little bit more coloured in. Now if you wanted to do this more like a patchwork, you could certainly cut the gnome shape out and only cut the patterned coloured bits for the body and the hat. Otherwise you can do what I'm doing and just paint over the top with it with a bit of gesso and a bit of other coloured paint. As I'm doing this, I am not being very particular about my paint shapes at the moment, particularly with this white. You can see I'm being quite textured with how I'm putting it on. I'm using quite a stiff brush and I'm just adding my paint where I need to. The reason I glued this down before I finish painting on it is because I actually want to have the beard going off the page. So if I'd sort of painted this on, I would have had a funny cut edge of where my beard was, unless I sort of was fiddle fighting around and cutting out around that side. I've just put some glitter texture paste on. That's the Tim Holtz snowflake paste. Just again add some more texture onto my page and give it that sort of little fluffy feel. Now I'm going in and adding some detail with a gold mirror chrome pen on my cap, again to sort of pick up some of that gold I had in the original. For his stripy hat, I'm just using my Posca paint pen to put in some details with that as well. So it's not particularly difficult, and again you can put as much or as little detail into this as you fancy. I'm using my paint pen to go around the edges of my image as well, just to help push it out from the background, just like I do with my magazine collages. I'm also using a little bit of the gold to add a little bit of a highlight to his hat. Now I'm going in with my distress crayons to add some shading and some texture to his face. Again, not much of this is very detailed. It is pretty cartoony in how I did it, but I just like sort of the simplistic effect of it. So I'm using a combination of paint pens and some of my distress crayons just to add a little bit more detail in over the top of my image and to add a little bit of depth and colour to my little gnome. When you're using the distress crayons, obviously you can get that little bit of shading. The Posca paint pens are obviously a very flat colour, so you'll notice on the on the eyes, sorry, I went over with a little bit of the distress crayon as well, just to give a little bit of depth of colour to his eyes. Now I've just gone around with my Stabilo All Pencil, and I've actually drawn around the beard as well. So this is the cut page, and again, those people wanting to follow around, have a check out of my free class, because it's probably a lot easier to see than sped up at a ridiculous speed. But this is just to give you a brief idea. It is pretty simple to follow, but if you need that extra support, go and have a look at that. So this is where the dotted page comes in really useful, because you've got those dotted lines that you can use to help you with the spacing and with the size of your letters. Once I've drawn it out, I'm going in with a sharp craft knife and cutting out all the little individual bits. Now the difference between this is usually when I'm doing cut pages, and please apologise for my hair in the way, I am actually cutting out the letters, but in this case I'm cutting out the negative space in between all the letters, so all the holes, all the gaps. So when you're doing this, you need to really think about how you're joining all these letters together, how they're supporting each other, that you don't have big gaps. One of the ways you can make this a little bit stronger at the end is to put some transparency or some vellum or something behind it just to hold it all together. So you can see I'm being quite brutal with what I'm actually cutting away. The word Christmas didn't fit on the page, so I've split that over to two. So think about how you can, what you're going to write on it and how it's going to fit across. Now in this case, I just drew all those letters. In the past and in the class that I've got up on my YouTube channel, I've used a stencil to do that. You could also just stamp the letters out and cut out around the stamped letters. So if you don't feel comfortable cutting it out or drawing it out yourself, there's lots of different ways that you can do that. So you can see I've got the words now popping over my image. I wanted to make them stand out from the background a little bit because it was very dark, so I'm just going in with some stenciling over the top with that metallic again. So using the same stencil I sort of used in the background, same colour, so I've got a little bit of repetition, and you can sort of see that coming across the background. So it looks a bit odd because obviously I have got the black paper in the background, it sort of all blends in. It does make sense when you're finished. But just make sure you've got your cutting boards underneath when you're cutting, otherwise you're cutting through your picture that you've done, and if you're painting on it, that you have got something to obviously protect your pages underneath. Now I'm just going around with a black pen to re-outline my letters. In all honesty, maybe white would have been better in the fact that it might have given me a little bit more contrast with the final image, because I had the black and gold on here as well, but you can sort of choose whatever you want. I think I did actually go in with a white pencil just to give a little bit of a highlight on the letters, just to make it stand out a little bit. I chose to use my Stabilo pencil because I didn't want it to be too in your face, but I think with a white Posca paint pen that probably would have stood out a little bit more as well. So once you've finished doing your letters, now you can sort of see how it all works together. Now I'm just using some vellum with some tracing paper, and just putting a little bit of glue over my letters, and then gluing it down onto the vellum. Again, with this, you could certainly stamp into the background of that. I could have put more stars in the background, but because I had the stars in the background of my page, I didn't want to go too nuts with it. Finally, I'm just going in with my brush and water activating the Stabilo pencil I had on his beard, just to give it a little bit of shadow in the finished piece. So this is the close-up of my starting of my matrix pages with the paint in the beginning and then with the extra stenciling over the top. You can see the sort of metallics and the layering. Again, direction doesn't really matter. And this page obviously is used to use that gnome shape in the background. So you can sort of see the close-up with the texture and the gnome, and the texture of the beard with the snowflake paste on it. This is my cut page with the vellum behind it. Again, I've hand cut those letters. You can use a stencil or some stamping in the background, and this is a close-up of the final piece. So I hope you have a go at playing around with this. Again, if you're interested in this class, check out my free lifetime tutorial, and I'll have the description or the links in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye for now.